as you know, there are some teachers and also in some non-dual circles in which they stress a lot the point that even the sadhana, the spiritual practice, is illusion, and that these can also strengthen the belief in a me, which is doing the practice to get one day somewhere. And so my question is how to avoid that, and what do you think about this? Is there some truth in it? Because I usually ignore these doubts by thinking, well, if it is happening for me, then it is right. Or with something like, I'm not doing any practice, I'm just resting in myself or something on this line. But recently came up these thoughts, and so I would like to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I just want to check myself. This is a question that you have directly for yourself, right? This is
yeah, it is. Yes.
Thanks for the question. Yeah. So, practices, right or wrong, good or bad. So practices, can they just perpetuate the sense of a me, the sense of self? Yes, definitely. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No. Ultimately, is that a hindrance to liberation? Yes. Do we need practices for liberation? Yes and no. How can we need a practice to get to what already is everything? Why do we even need to remove vasanas if there is no duality? Truth is, we don't. There's nothing that needs to be done. Everything is totally free already. Vasanas come, vasanas go. Who cares? What's the problem? But the way the teaching unfolds is a spontaneous unfolding. When someone comes and they've got an issue, a problem, there's a response on that level. And this is where practice, on that level, the relative level, this is where practices become very important, very useful. So it appears. Is it illusion? Well, yes and no. Like everything. Everything is illusion, but not everything is not illusion as well. Everything is what it is. Is there anything wrong with practices? Certainly not. Because if practices are happening, they're happening. If you're drawn to practice, you're drawn to practice. And then when you practice for a while, what tends to happen is that your need for practice lessens. And as insight grows stronger, insight means seeing through the illusion of duality. Then there's less and less need for practice. Until when there's no duality, there's no need for practice. Who would be practicing? For what reason? And where is there to get to? Apart from an imaginary somewhere else. And there's no need to get anywhere else. So there's nothing wrong with practices. They either happen or they don't. But ultimately, they're not needed. Illusory. and they might still happen nonetheless. So Ramana said that all practices strengthen the me. He often recommended practices too. He says self-inquiry. See, whatever you do, whatever spiritual practice you do, or who is doing the practice, eventually you have to come to the point where you have to question, who is it that's seeking? Who is it that's doing the practice? What is it that's looking? What is it that's seeking? This is then self-inquiry becomes, who is looking? What is looking? You shine the light of awareness, metaphorically speaking. What is this me entity? Then it dissolves. So then there's no entity to practice anything. Practice might spontaneously happen, it might not. Yeah. Practice is then just like eating, drinking. You know, it just spontaneously happens or it doesn't. As it's needed. Even self-inquiry is more illusion. Ultimately. Doesn't mean it's not recommended. This is all illusion. All the whole thing is illusion. The whole teacher teaching, right at the end of Viveka Chudamani, which goes stepwise through all the teachings. At the beginning of Viveka Chudamani, there's a seeker who's suffering, and he approaches the guru, the teacher, and the text goes on to describe the qualities of the guru and how important the guru is and what the guru's qualities should ideally be. They should be loving, peaceful. They should understand the scriptures and this kind of stuff. And then it says what should the qualities of a seeker should be, how they should be able to apply themselves to teaching. They should be able to think clearly. They should have love in their hearts. The grace of God needs to be with them. Things like this. And then the teaching goes through stepwise. It says first you need to be able to discriminate between what you are and what you're not. The viveka, the discernment, the discrimination between self, atman, and non-self, anatman. Atman, anatman, viveka. And then you need to understand that fully. And you need to see that what you are and what Brahman is the same. You need to see that I am that. And then it goes through all the meditation methods to remove the habitual tendencies that reify the ego. Reify means to make real. That makes the ego appear real. All the habitual tendencies that reify the ego, to remove them, to purify. Yeah. And then it goes on to explain what liberation is and what someone who liberated in this life, a jivan mukti, means someone who's liberated. Mukti means freedom. And Jivan means within this life. So Jivan Mukti is someone who's liberated in this life. And then the seeker is finally enlightened and says, thank you so much, dear Guru. Thank you so much. And then there are a few verses right at the end. And towards the end it says, there is no teacher. There is no teaching. There is no seeker. There is no delusion or ignorance. There is no liberation. This is all just illusion. That is the ultimate truth. That's the final truth. So everything you've just gone through, All that stuff is just illusion. So why do it all then? That's just the way it happens. No one's actually doing it. It's just that's the way it tends to happen. And you'll see people, if you speak to different spiritual seekers, they'll all go through these kinds of similar kind of processes. It's like water flows downwards. Why does that happen? That's the way it is. I mean, you can say because of gravity and this and that, but why is gravity there? Eventually, the only answer you can say is that's the way it is. No one knows why gravity is there, actually. Scientifically, no one understands gravity. No one even knows what it is. Lots of theories about what gravity is. What is gravity? We know what it does. We know it attracts two particles with mass towards each other. But why is it there? How does it work? No idea. It's just the way it is. So this is just the way it is. You'll do your spiritual practices until you don't. Is anyone doing it? Well, it might seem like someone's doing it. Then you have a waking up moment like what Mary's had, and you realize there's no one here to do anything. And as that realization, that insight deepens, you realize that there's no one else as well. Because there's no one in here, there's no one in there either. So then who's practicing what? Well, stuff might still happen. Practice might still happen. Purification might still happen. It happens by itself, just like everything's happened by itself. There's nothing wrong with practice. Sometimes it's encouraged. Sometimes it's not. It doesn't make a difference. It's fine either way. Don't think the practice will make you enlightened. That's where the problem comes in, because nothing will make you enlightened. You're already free. You don't need to become enlightened. That's why in the Zen, if you read the instructions for Zen meditation, have you heard of Zazen? Zazen means the Zen sitting meditation. It means seated meditation in Zen. Right at the beginning of the instructions, they say, this will not enlighten you. Do not think that this is going to give you anything. Yeah? We just sit because that is our nature. That is our expression, spontaneous expression of Buddha nature. It's just to sit. We're not sitting to become enlightened. We are Buddhas sitting. That is just an expression of our already apparent, fully manifest Buddha nature. When Dogen, who was a great Japanese Zen master, when he wrote his basic instructions for sitting meditation, at the beginning he said, this cannot be attained. Practices cannot get there. And then he describes the practice. Not to get there, but it's just an expression. You don't think that these things are going to get you anywhere. There's nowhere to go. Once you think that the practice is going to get you somewhere, then you're in duality. And then you think, oh, I'm a person, I'm a body-mind, and I need to get enlightened. You've already taken yourself to be the body-mind. You've already fallen off the cliff of duality. There is no cliff of duality. It's an illusion. It's just thought. It's just believing the subtitles on the screen to be you, to be true. That's where all the pain and suffering comes from.